Hey everybody, Charles for HumbleMechanic.com. Today we're talking about the top 5 failures of the Volkswagen TSI engine. So the TSI engine is Volkswagen's first redesign of the FSI engine, which was their first direct injection turbocharged engine, at least in the US anyway. And to say that engine was problematic may be a little bit of an understatement. But it turns out that the TSI engine also had its fair share of problems. Now, the TSI engine is going to be found in the Passat, in the CC, in the Tiguan, in the GTI, in the GLI, as well as in the EOS. All right, before we get into the top 5 failures, we need to talk about the sponsor of the day, which is Deutsch Auto Parts. These guys are the Volkswagen Audi parts experts. Awesome service, incredible pricing, a ton of really great DIY videos, so check them out at shopdap.com. All right, failure number 1, failing intake manifolds. This was sort of the first really common, really pattern failing part that we saw on the TSI engine. We would get a check engine light, pull the codes. The codes would be something like, implausible signal from intake runner sensor, something along those lines. And sure enough, it was a failing sensor inside the intake manifold. The difference between this one and the FSI is that all of the intake runner pieces were built into the intake manifold, so nothing was serviceable separate. What we were doing is we were replacing the entire intake manifold. The failures of the intake manifold end up being sped up by carbon buildup inside the little intake flap runner on the intake manifold, right where it bolts up to the cylinder head. Even today, with all of the TSIs that have been out for a really long time, we're still consistently putting intake manifolds on these cars. Number 2, carbon buildup and cold start misfires. This problem really developed on the TSI engine. It was a little bit of an issue on the FSI, but the TSI really brought this problem to the forefront. And what's happening is deposits of carbon are building up and coking onto the backs of the intake valves. During a cold start situation, this doesn't let the valve close properly and will cause either a check engine light, the car to run poorly, or really, most of the time it causes both. This carbon buildup we see anywhere from 50 to 70,000 miles. And while there's a lot of cleaners out there that claim to take care of carbon buildup once it's already there, really the best way to do it is to take the intake manifold off and manually decarb the cylinder head. Now the great thing for customers is that intake manifold that I just mentioned that fails all the time, there's a warranty extension, so a lot of them are covered under high mileage, and we can actually double up these repairs and save the customer a bunch of money by doing it all at once. Number 3, water pumps leaking. This is a big one. This is even a recall on some GTIs that have the CBFA engine code, but it's common on all the TSIs. And really this stems from 2 separate things. One, the water pump is bolted to the front of the engine and it's made out of a composite, basically plastic material. So already you have plastic that's bolted up to an engine that gets really hot, cold, hot, cold. In addition to that, it has hot and cold coolant flowing through it. And 2, oil leaks down on top of the water pump, compromises the seal, compromises the plastic, and causes the pump to leak out of the top of the water pump. And if not taken care of, can cause all of the coolant to leak out of your car. Number 4, timing chain tensioners. This was a problem on mostly early production TSI engines. Depending on what year your vehicle is, this may not affect you at all, or it may be a problem and honestly something you want to get inspected. There's a tiny inspection hole on the front lower timing cover that we can actually go in and check to see what tensioner your vehicle has. And if it has one of the early revisions of this tensioner, it's something you're gonna wanna get replaced. What happens is the tensioner will actually get stuck and cause the timing chain to lose its tension. That'll cause the cams and the crankshaft to basically get out of time. I've seen this cause problems in a couple of different ways. One, and the really lucky one, the customer that really needs to play the lottery, is where it jumps time but does not damage anything. Basically, the timing chain loses tension, the car may not run, the car may be really hard to start, the customer gets it towed in, and we can put a chain on it, put a new tensioner on it, and everyone's happy. It seems to really only be the Tiguans, for some reason, that get really lucky. The more common problem and the more catastrophic problem is internal engine damage. When these tensioners fail and cause all of the tension in the chain to go away, it can actually bend valves, where valves hit pistons. I actually have a couple of valves inside my toolbox here. I actually pulled some valves out of my toolbox that were bent because of a timing chain tensioner failure. So most of them do need to have either a cylinder head or valves replaced. We've been doing cylinder heads because basically it's cheaper to put a cylinder head on it than it is to get new valves, depending on how many valves are bent. So if you have a very early TSI engine, you're gonna wanna get that inspected. And number 5, engine oil leaks. Basically, we start at the top of the engine and work our way down both the front and the back of the engine. From the cam bridge on top of the engine to the upper timing cover and lower timing cover, we get oil leaks. But the oil leak that causes the most problems is actually one of those parts that it used to be Volkswagen never had an issue with, and that's the rear main seal. The rear main seals on the 2-liter TSI engines is a pretty common source of an oil leak. In addition to leaking oil, it can make the car run completely stupid. It can cause system lean faults, it can cause misfire faults, it can create a pretty sizable vacuum leak in the engine. And this is a pretty big job. The transmission has to come out, the flywheel has to come off, or the flex plate has to come off in order for us to get these seals replaced. So it's a big job and something that no one ever wants to have to replace. All right, that is the top 5. Now we're gonna do rapid fire and talk about some other really common problems. Ignition coils, turbo wastegates rattling, injectors failing to the point where there's a warranty extension on a lot of fuel injectors. A high pressure fuel pump failing. Again, some of these cars have a warranty extension on the high pressure fuel pump. Low pressure fuel pumps failing, which is not as common as the high pressure fuel pump, but we do see them. There's also been a ton of software updates for various problems on the TSIs. In fact, we're still getting new TSI software updates right now, so this is going to be an ongoing thing as far as changing software in the TSIs. And the final one is going to be PCV valves. Yes, over the years we've had our PCV issues, and in fact, these PCV valves actually cause some of the other things that are really common failures on the TSI engines. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up there. If you have any questions or comments, post it in the comments section below. Hey, if you liked the video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. I always appreciate that. You can also subscribe on YouTube or on the blog at humblemechanic.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the blog, and obviously here on YouTube. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. That's a pretty nice looking valve there. Not sure. I think this came out of a Tiguan.